Allow me to start on a slight tangent talking about the talk. And we're using the definition from Wikipedia with the word there. You can go to the links and see more about the talk, or the talk, which is racism in the United States. And the talk is something that's not a new phenomenon, but it was a very big deal about a decade ago when we had summers of young black people being stopped in cars and being shot constantly. Essentially, every time a black person got stopped, they were shot for some reason and killed quite often. It was a very, very, very big deal. Summer of Breonna Taylor, all those things that happened there. The talk came about from how to interact, how young black men specifically, or just or youth in general, need to interact when they are accosted by police officers. If you get stopped over, if you get pulled over by a cop, you were to do this in the car and not give any sign of any resistance, because who knows what they're thinking and how they're going to react to you. The talk is something that, I got when I was a kid, essentially, about just how to act in public, because things weren't necessarily always great then either. Gen X, we survived a lot of weird things, but everything wasn't all peachy and rosy, even though we may turn out that, we had some sort of harmony. There was lots of unrest going back and forth. And of course, my folks' generations went through civil rights and being beat up by dogs and water cannons and sticks a lot. So the talk on how to interact with police officers, officers of authority, is a big deal. It's an important thing to do. Now, let's move forward literally to yesterday, the 24th of January, and let's start talking about that. But before we go that, let's talk about a project, another project that I'm bringing back to life in some sense of form, on vocabulary words and learning things, and a definition: gaslighting, the use of psychological manipulation to undermine a person's faith in their own judgment, memory, or sanity. A second version of that is the practice of deceiving people through the repetition of a constructed false operations of narrative. Reading off the screen here, it's smaller on my monitor screen, so bear with me. Gaslighting. We're going to go forward in time, maybe backwards in time, because it's been a day, to yesterday, the 24th of January, 2025. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let me set the scene for you first. For weeks now, the city has been flooded with agents of law enforcement, federal law enforcement, for enforcing immigration laws. ICE have been there. There have been many incidents of some unrest, lots of protests. They've been doing this across various states and various cities across the nation. So this is not a new thing. This is not a all of a sudden thing happening. What is a new thing for the city of Minneapolis, as of a few weeks ago, is ICE agents essentially shooting people in very suspect circumstances and killing them in the process. Renée Good was the first person who was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. There's another incident of a person shot in Minneapolis. And yesterday, we had the killing of Alex Pretti, who was at a rally or at a protest, I guess, observing things, and was killed in the incident. We'll go deeper in detail what's going on there. Gaslighting. In all of these stories, we have received information from the government literally moments after the reports go out there about the situation, what went down. And then we see from all the evidence, from all the videos, from all the people standing around, that that isn't exactly what happened. And we learn more and more about what's going on. Yet the government's story never changes. In fact, it escalates. Renée Good and Alex Pretti essentially were disruptors out there showing up to cause a ruckus on purpose. So, with that part being said, on gaslighting, I wish I were paying attention when the video was running, when it started. I had a bunch of things going on at the time, and I was looking for some things and actually working on some Alex Pretti content for today. But as the tape was rolling, and I couldn't back it up fast enough to get a good recording of it, there was an interview going on State of the Union with Dana Bash this morning, and mostly because I had two channels competing, and this show is not one of my favorites, but it just so happens because of the snow apocalypse, we're at home on this Sunday instead of me being at church, so I'm doing extra work here to kind of catch up on some things and have things done. The interview begins, and it's a interview with one of the officials heads that are running the operations for immigration for DHS. I couldn't get his name in the Chiron back and forth either, and so I just sort of just threw a picture up here as it happened this morning. This screenshot was from I guess 8:12 my time at Eastern Central Time, 6:12 p.m. time, Pacific time. I think that's there in the timestamp. So once I started listening, and once I started digesting, and once I started just sort of understanding, and for a brief moment when I let the anger sort of, wash over me quickly so I can go back to listening and digesting, understanding, it become very clear that the government officials involved in these operations are not being truthful. They're not even trying. They're defending their people, which is they should do. They're defending their actions, which if the actions were honorable are good, but they're defending actions and people who are flat out wrong, unqualified for what they're doing, and making situations worse. In the aftermath of Renée Good being shot, the federal government sent an extra 1,000 ICE agents to the city of Minneapolis to support those guys. Why? Because they're not getting support from local law enforcement. Why? Because they're doing these operations and running around with masks on and having pretty much cavalier attitudes to pick up people who are, on most part, here. Maybe they crossed over illegally. Maybe they came and they don't have citizen status, but most of these people seem to be here and just are waiting some sort of hearing or not doing anything all that bad. They're not busting down gangs buildings. They literally are grabbing folks who are picking up their kids at school every day. This is just one interview that was there. In fact, I heard later on, before getting a chance to record it, they used this piece of interview on MS Now as well to talk about how they're just the 1984 and the Orwellian lies that are being told by our government on the situation. When we can all see this, one of the biggest things about this one right here, Renée Good as well, is that there are so many camera angles to tell a story. The story that's being told by the government is that the man was there on purpose, which you have to be there on purpose, with a handgun, a firearm, and automatic firearms. Most pistols are automatic at this point, this day and age. And he went and accosted, assaulted, bothered the members of ICE while they were in an active, involved investigation. It was a crime scene that he stepped into, and he got shot for being engaging. What we see is a man we later find out is a VA nurse who has a concealed carry permit, so he has the right to hold a gun wherever the hell he wants to and keep it tucked away because he's got a piece of paper that says, yo, I got this, Second Amendment, roll with me. Holding his camera on his phone, seeing some sort of melee happening in the streets, trying to wave some cars back and forth so they can get through and get past, and seeing some ICE agents accost a woman and kind of push her over, going to assist her with a phone in his hand. And that's when everything kicks off. That's when things get lively. That's when four guys grab him. The word gun is yelled. Maybe he has it. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe they pull it off him. Maybe they don't. He's holding his phone, not his gun, and I believe 10 shots were fired. I think he died at the scene, but they did take him to the medical facility to try to revive him. They did have some aid this time. They didn't work in Renée Good's unfavor by just not letting anybody assist going forward and having people wait to walk into the situation to try to evacuate her. But what has happened is seemingly every couple hours, since this happened about 9 in the morning on Saturday morning, every couple of hours, a new video from someone else's vantage point comes out there, and it shows the same similar thing. A man being jumped by 4 guys, eventually shot. Fill in the blanks as there are. Maybe he had a gun. No one can seem to see an angle where he's holding a gun at anybody. Maybe he was being a bit loud. It seemed like he was trying to pull them off to not accost that lady who had fallen in the snow for whatever reason going on, being too rough with her. Maybe they didn't need to shoot 10 shots at one guy on the ground that had already been detained and basically nullified in the situation. The next word is lying. The telling of lies or false statements. These people are lying to our faces on TV. Kristi Noem was on TV yesterday lying. Donald Trump in his Truth Social post showing the gun that was picked up off the guy that he was going to attack these folks in Rah Rah USA is lying. There's no both sides. There's no if then. There's no whataboutism. They are lying. They are giving falsehoods. If you were talking to the old folks, they telling stories. This is not good. This is not what we're looking for. This is not any sort of agenda, any sort of mandate that anybody voted for. We have officials in the government who are flat out not telling us the truth. Now, back in my day, back when I was a young whippersnapper, and proud of my daddy being in the army, there was a thing we said as kids about, the government's lying to you because, there's always things that, we knew our folks were doing, but they couldn't really tell us what was going on because secrets and training and stuff like that. Back when I spent my time in the military, in the Air Force, my government job, my actual government job, there were times where I joked about the government lying to you because it does. It's not the government's job to be forthcoming with everything because you don't really want to know. And in fact, there were some programs where some people would not show up for work that day. And our boss, our colonel, was like, well, you don't really want to know what he's doing today. It's probably his day to fly the black helicopters, but we really don't want to know where he wants to be. There are things where you don't need to be told everything because knowing more doesn't fix things. Donald Trump seems to want to give every detail of every operation because it makes him look macho, even though he does very little but sit there and watches them go down and watches people who put their lives on the line doing the jobs they do well. Good job for them. Not so great job for DJT. So what we're looking at now is an escalating situation. We've only had 24 hours for this to basically come through. And since the biggest story of the weekend is the crippling snow and ice that's keeping people from moving around the nation and getting things in and out right now, the crippling ice operations that are going through many cities, especially Minnesota, have been, they were supposed to be an afterthought this weekend. They are not. Now we're talking about Alex Pretti. Alex Pretti is a man who yesterday no one knew anything about. As all practical purposes, he's a random dude that we shouldn't know anything about. 37-year-old nurse, works at a VA hospital. We're going to assume that he's a fairly good person. We're going to assume that he's good at his job. I don't see his performance reports. I've not seen his resume. I don't know if he has anything going on I don't know if he's got any beef with anybody back home. His family says he's a great guy. That's all we got. We'll get more because more will come out in the time coming through. Right now, it's the time for the questions and the poking and the asking questions. Even though we're asking questions that we should know the answers to, we're not getting the full story. We're not getting a real story. We're not getting a truthful account from those in authority, and we're not sure when we're going to. There is some back and forth about who's in charge of the investigation. I think there will be essentially two investigations. For Renée Good, they just said, nope, we're not going to investigate Renée Good, but we are going to check out her wife because she was a little loud. But our officer was fine going back and forth. We later found out from an autopsy of the shots that were fired, all of them were unnecessary. The two of them were so wild shots that should not even be pulled off, mostly because the handgun was automatic and just sort of fired off those extra shots. The local authorities and the governor of Minnesota are running some investigation on their own. There will be some investigation, and the officers are supposedly on administrative leave that were involved in this shooting yesterday. So there'll be something so that Kristi Noem can have another press conference and clear these guys, because that's what they'll do. This is 3 shootings in the city, not by federal marshals who are rounding up Al Capone, but by immigration officers who are looking for supposedly bad guy criminals, but just essentially picking up anybody that looks kind of brownish and that doesn't have a paper on them. And this is the second person who has been killed because of these type of actions, these gonzo activities that these folks are doing. Oh, by the way, Alex Pretti now has a Wikipedia page. Didn't need one yesterday. Maybe he had one before. I don't know. It was people make their pages all the time. It's there. It's a free encyclopedia. But now he has a page, which I believe is like 9 pages long. When I pulled the data off of it, it's over 2,700 words that goes into detail of yesterday. There's stuff about his background and where he's from and what he did, but the whole purpose of the reason why and the existence of this page on Wikipedia is to remember Alex Pretti. Say Renée Good. Say Alex Pretti. Say what you want to say about this silliness that we're dealing with here with our government. I really don't understand. I really don't understand why it's so hard, other than there are bad people in big positions doing bad jobs at the behest of a person who is bad for his position. And I say that as my full opinion, and you can attack me or whatever on that one, but this is what's going on. There's a guy who's mostly in charge. I say mostly because he's getting fed information from all over the place and he's kind of rolls with it. His impulses just get him. He's mostly in charge, who's spouting off some commands that make him look big, make him look bad, and means lots of folks with guns are out there doing things, and he thinks that's what works well. Or maybe he actually knows better and can't figure out how to stop it. I would love for that to be the answer, because then people can talk to him how to stop it. Oh, the other side, because I'm so blue bleeding liberal, the liberals aren't doing what they can to fight this thing either. We're not talking 25th Amendment. We're just talking about just being there, saying more than just some words whenever a camera shows up, but putting into action actual details to make things work. Putting up for candidacy people who are worthy of being taking the job. And yeah, maybe we didn't like Kamala as well as people thought so. And maybe people realized that Biden was kind of losing it, but they could have put something up better. If the better option was what we have right now, especially after what we saw the first time, then that's one problem there. And right now, words and in thoughts and prayers and kind of actions and shaking your fists at the guys in charge is not helping either. I need someone to do something. I'm just a dude sitting in my house, snowed in for the weekend, rattling about some news stories because that's what I can do. I can give some perspective. I can give a little bit of a forum for people to talk about. I can talk to some people that I know who know some things to get better answers for me and spit them out there. But trust me, I've tried the politician thing. I've tried the being a part of office, being a part of government thing. It's hard to do. And when those folks have a job, that part of their job is to make sure they still have a job tomorrow, it becomes hard to do things. It does. Because someone's not going to like what you're doing regardless. I don't like presenting this Wikipedia page for Alex Pretti today. I don't like doing this monologue for what's going on in Minneapolis and other cities across the nation because of detention for immigration, because it's obviously an overblown, overdone, just macho situation. I don't like having to talk about these topics, these conversations. But these are the things that are important. Literally on a weekend where we thought the big story was going to be how will we survive until Monday when we really get stuck, when the temperatures drop with all the ice and snow out there, to another murder by government agents who are just irresponsible in the job they're doing and in the policing they do of themselves. That's what I got. Give me your opinions. Give me your comments. Give me your thoughts. I can't make this any more obvious than the words that I said earlier. I started off with gaslighting because gaslighting is what it seems like they're doing. No, folks, these folks are just flat out lying.